I think I forgot to properly introduce myself to you, Little Ruck, so I'm Raiden, a local writer. The link to my latest book is in the description, and BBL stands for Brazilian Butt Lift. Let's do this shit. I swear to Aisha that eventually the random number generator has to stop picking Asian restaurants, but this week we kick things off with Mizuki all-you-can-eat sushi and hibachi. Now, for a bit of Raiden Radio lore, decent sushi is one of those things that I genuinely have a hard time finding since moving here to the south. And I'm not one of those weirdos who owns a kimono, a decorative samurai sword, and dreams of one day flying halfway around the world to buy used underwear from a vending machine and make everyone on the subway uncomfortable. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, sushi. It's pretty good, I guess. I don't think I've ever had sushi that kicked my dick into the dirt. I've never understood why some people refer to sushi as this transcendental religious experience when some geriatric places a piece of fish and a handful of rice.
You fucking heathens. This man is an artist.
But it's good enough that my journey to find decent sushi in the deep south brought me to Mizuki to sample as much of their menu as my fat ass could handle with their $30 all-you-can-eat sushi experience. Now, Mizuki has some baked-in ground rules in play here. You can't order more than 3 specialty rolls per person at a time, and you have a maximum of 2 hours to eat. And you know, I support this. I've seen enough videos of you wannabe influencer Zoomer shits filming yourself being jackasses to the service industry for content. Congratulations on destroying our high-trust society, you fucks. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, Mizuki. We went there on a Saturday night and shit was poppin'. We ordered our first wave of sushi, pun intended, and despite the sushi station being extraordinarily busy, it seemed like a smooth operation. And we never waited long for our food, and it was all pretty decent. Some highlights were the crazy tuna roll, the smoked salmon sashimi, and the red dragon roll. Some lowlights were the tiger roll and the sweetheart roll. Overall, everything was pretty good, except for the service, which was atrocious. Our drinks sat empty for a good chunk of time, and after we finished eating, we sat for no bullshit 30 minutes before receiving our check. And it wasn't like there was a point where we said we were done eating, our server just abandoned us. The fact that the kitchen was making all of this intricate food for a full restaurant makes the table service seem that much worse. And not to throw anyone under the bus, but the restaurant as a whole seemed like a well-oiled machine, while our server in particular seemed like its weakest link. But for what it was, we left Mizuki all-you-can-eat sushi feeling like we had gotten what we wanted for at a fair price. It's not amazing and you might wait a bit, but it's an experience I'm happy I had, and look forward to going back the next time I develop a hankering for some sushi. A 6.7 out of 10. The global food arena is a deeply fascinating place if you take a peek under the hood and study its history. And there is perhaps no culinary region I know less about than Africa. So let's take a closer look at it by sampling Afrobites, an African food truck located here in Little Rock. Now, one of my favorite things about food and cultures is how even the uglier times in man's history can produce delicious food through otherwise horrific interactions. For example, there's the banh mi, which arose from France's colonization of Vietnam. And relevant here, the acclaimed piri piri. From the Swahili language meaning pepper pepper, piri piri was a sauce or marinade developed by the Portuguese in East Africa, who took Africa's bird's eye chilies and made a meat marinade using garlic, vinegar, and European seasonings. The sauce then expanded to other Portuguese colonies and eventually the entire world. I went and sampled the piri piri chicken along with a side of black-eyed pea stew and spicy plantains. They were out of the Kenyan collard greens, which I look forward to trying next time. The chicken was extraordinarily cooked and well seasoned, but lacked that hit of heat I was looking for. And if I'm being honest, the sides were a little on the bland side. This is something I've also noticed about a lot of barbecue places here in Arkansas. A lot of care put towards the meat, not as much attention for the sides. But make sure you get the jollof rice because it was, as it usually is, outstanding. We also sampled the coconut rice, which wasn't bad, but didn't compare to the jollof. One final thing I have to mention is the drinks. The mango pineapple juice was both extraordinarily refreshing and the perfect complement to the meal. But the ginger lemonade was so gingery that I took one sip and my soul briefly left my body and transcended into the ginger dimension. One final thing to mention, however, is that the service is a little slow. And to be honest, it's kind of confusing why. The entire menu is made up of dishes that take a long time, but are prepared well in advance. So for it to take upwards of a half hour to get your order when there was only a few customers was strange. Still absolutely recommend Afrobites when you find the time, and they do too. I'm giving them a 6.8 out of 10. In for a bit more Raiden lore, but growing up in the Northeast and later living in the Pacific Northwest, I never really got barbecue. To me, barbecue was that sauce that's way too sweet, or that pulled pork that's way too sweet. But having lived in the South for a few years, I can now say I proudly don't understand it less than I once did, or more. I've sampled the splendors of vinegary Carolina pulled pork, the exquisite simplicity of Memphis-style rub ribs, and the mediocre mediocrity of whole hog barbecue. We went there and sampled the brisket, burnt ends, smoked turkey, jalapeno cheddar sausage, and dry rub ribs. And it was all okay, I guess. The best way I could describe it would be like going to a church event or a family gathering. And you fix a plate and nothing is particularly piping hot and it tastes fine and you're sure as hell not going to complain, but it certainly isn't anything memorable. To be more specific, the sausages and turkey were pretty tasty. The brisket still had plenty of unrendered fat, and the ribs had so little meat on them that I worried that pig had an eating disorder. But where whole hog, like Afrobites, really drops the ball are the sides. I know barbecue is meant to be a carnivore's waifu, but there's a reason why the sides are there. Contrast. And it genuinely seems like whole hog does not agree and does not happen to give an actual fuck. When I first tried whole hog barbecue a few years ago, it was the best barbecue I'd ever had, but has since been eclipsed by most other barbecue joints I've found here in the South. I've had plenty better and plenty worse, but whole hog are the crystal clear definition of mid. 5.2 out of 10. Still have a lot of exploring to do in Little Rock. In fact, I've hardly spent any time. But the random number generator suggested I check out Blackberry Market in the Argenta Arts District, whatever that is. We went there for some breakfast, and giving this place a look over, my expectations for getting a meal here are about as low as you can possibly imagine. I mean, the inside looks like an H&R Block office with a coffee bar, and there's white ladies everywhere. And you know they have shit taste in everything. But being the hero I am, we ventured on, and in probably the most unlikely thing that has ever occurred in recorded history, had a damn good breakfast. I got their breakfast burrito, and while it was a little heavy on the sausage and light on everything else, it was damn tasty. It came with a side of home fries that I think had chorizo in them, and a cup of salsa that I would testify in open court was made in-house. Mrs. Raiden got a blueberry grilled cheese. What the fuck? That she reported was really good. She also reported that their cold brew was, and I quote, smooth. I also got a lemon mixed berry scone that was top tier, and damn, was I ever wrong about this place. I mean, the interior has about as much personality as a PTA meeting, but we had a pleasant breakfast along with a lovely stroll. Toon. If you're in the area, I would definitely recommend the Blackberry Market in the Argenta Arts District, whatever that is, and I'm giving them a 7.1 out of 10. So let me hit you with an analogy that will prime you for this review. See, I was born in Philadelphia, and we are known the world over for the Philly cheesesteak. Even though we don't call it that, we just say cheesesteak. Anyway, most people that visit Philadelphia will hit up Pat's or Gino's or Tony Luke's, the most famous cheesesteak spots that they saw on TV or something. But growing up there, you know that the best cheesesteak comes from small, family-owned hoagie shops or pizzerias. And I think that's basically true everywhere. The good local eats come from small businesses. Hell, it was true earlier when I was talking about whole hog. I also spent a good amount of time around the Chesapeake Bay, and while I wasn't totally unfamiliar with fried fish, it just wasn't something you saw all that often. Fish was something you got from the market that was caught the day before, if not sooner, sautéed with some butter, lemon, salt and pepper, that was it. So fried catfish wasn't really on my radar until I moved here. But when I did, it was like, damn, Arkansas, I wasn't really familiar with your game. Fried catfish has become the food that has defined living in Arkansas for me. It's the food that, when the winds of life carry me elsewhere, I will look back on with longing. And as was the case of whole hog barbecue, my introduction to this food was, unfortunately, eat my catfish. I've since found several better examples of fried catfish, but I still retain a bit of nostalgia for our first meeting. So I went back and confirmed my suspicions. The catfish pieces were cut too small, the batter was too thick, so the actual flavor of the catfish had been watered down. Not bad by any stretch, but nowhere near the pinnacle of what fried catfish can be. But shout out for those boudin balls, those are top tier. Eat My Catfish, a slightly watered down, pun intended, version of the genre, a 5.6 out of 10. That's going to do it for this go around. Make sure you check out my latest book at the link in the description. Make sure you're sub up, and I'll see you when I see you.